As we do when we get around to campuses, we like to meet with the key leadership and stakeholders and be present and talk about plans at the conference as well as what's going on here. So looking forward to a great game tonight. I understand it's going to be a terrific atmosphere, as it usually is here. And with that, happy to answer any questions that you all have.
What is your first impression of Mark Harlan and President Watkins? I'm
a big fan of Mark's. I have I guess I've been around long enough that I knew Mark in his prior Pac-12 iteration when he was at UCLA. So we worked very closely together in my early days as Pac-10 and then Pac-12 commissioner on a lot of the big changes we made at the conference in the early years, including going from Pac-10 to Pac-12, pooling of TV rights, creation of Pac-12 networks, TV deals and all that. And he is a world-class executive, sports administrator, very passionate about the student athletes and the experience. And I was delighted to see the success he had after he left UCLA, and he'll be a great leader here.
Conference is receiving some bad publicity here this week. How detrimental is it to it?
Well, you never like to see controversy and complaints. There's a lot of great things happening in the conference. Talking about our leadership and our all-around excellence and being the winningest conference, and a lot of leadership the conference is providing in a lot of different ways. But goes with the territory, and there are going to be issues that arise, with all the sports that we deal with, all the issues that we deal with, and I think goes with the territory, and it's how you deal with it in a forthright manner. Make adjustments where we need to. In the case of officiating this week, we clearly made mistakes in our procedures, and you have to acknowledge those things will happen from time to time. And I'm just a big believer, if you see something wrong, you need to address it right away, make a commitment to the principles that are most important to you. In this case, the principles that are of most importance to the Pac-12 are a highest level of integrity, especially when it comes to something like officiating, and student-athlete welfare. So, when there's controversy, when there's issues, those are the true north. Those are the things you look to. And in this case, those are what guided me in terms of how we dealt with it, by immediately correcting what we saw was wrong, admitting if we think we did something wrong, which I think we did in this case, and longer term, figuring out how you be best in class. The Pac-12 not only is the Conference of Champions because of our athletic excellence, but our universities also, represent the pinnacle of academic excellence, doing things the right way, changing the world for positive effect, and we try to operate the conference in a similar way.
Why would a non-game referee, a Pac-12 official administrator, I guess, feel the need to interject in a situation when they're having the replay?
Well, the way this is the second year of our command center. The reason we created a command center to be involved in replay and made a significant investment to do so was we believed that if the technology existed and if the resources could provide it, having more eyeballs on a play, especially when you got multiple games going on at any one time, you've got a lot of crews spread all over the conference, on-field crews, replay crews. If we could have our best, our replay supervisor, our head of officiating, our head of football, who spend the most time talking to our coaches, athletics directors, involved in national policy, involved as a check and balance to review calls, that's the way we can ensure that we're going to have maximum consistency and get calls right more of the time. That was the philosophy and the rationale behind creating a command center. And it was designed from the beginning that our head of officiating and our head of football would, when they're around and they're not on campus, be there to provide advice, counsel, different angles, ensure consistency, describe the philosophy of the rules. In this case, I think the thing we missed, and the thing I'll take responsibility for, is the way we designed it. Our head of officiating and head of football work for the conference. And what we found here is there's a perception that they could have a conflict of interest, and that's where I think we designed it poorly.
What are your thoughts on the possibilities for the postseason? You're halfway through the season now.
Yeah, there's a lot of football left to play. We've got an undefeated Colorado team. We've got a couple of one-loss teams that are playing each other tomorrow up in Eugene. And you never know what's going to happen in the football season. I mean, these next few weeks that are ahead of us, every single year there's upsets and things people don't predict are going to happen. So we've got teams very much still in the running, not just for the college football playoff, but keep in mind the Rose Bowl. This year there'll be a Pac-12 team in the Rose Bowl. So there's a lot to play for, a lot of football left to play, and it's way too early to predict how things are going to net out.
So between the command center and the people here, who ultimately does make the call then?
It's designed to be collaborative, and, I don't know if it's 99% of the time, but the large proportion of the time, there's alignment about how everyone sees it. But at the end of the day, the replay supervisor is based in San Francisco.
That person has the final say in
At the end of the day, yes. The replay supervisor is in charge of all of our replay officials. So our replay officials are dispersed to all the stadia, multiple games going on. So their boss is the replay supervisor. He's sitting in San Francisco in the command center.
And who is that?
Sorry?
Who is that?
Our replay supervisor is Bill. Oh, I'm blanking on his. I want to get his name right. Bill Richardson. Sorry, I mistakenly called him Jim Richardson the other day. Bill Richardson.
Okay.
And so he's in charge of all the replay officials. And at the end of the day, if I don't know if there are differences of opinion. Again, the way he's described it to me is that if there are differences of opinion, usually they align. But Bill is, for me, where the buck stops, because he is the replay supervisor. He's the ultimate person in charge of replay.
Are there specific procedures you're looking at and addressing and looking at making changes in light of what's happened this week?
Yes. Well, I announced yesterday immediate changes to the issue that created the controversy, which is, should anyone other than a replay official be involved in the discussion about a call? So I've immediately removed the head of officiating and our head of football from those discussions. So the controversy that was around that is now eliminated, and there should be no doubt anyone's got that the only people that are going to be involved in replay review of a call this season are trained replay officials. Longer term, I announced yesterday as well, there are more issues for us to look at. I'm going to benchmark what other conferences are doing, how the NFL does it. There are other policies we want to examine. I want to have conversations with our football coaches, athletics directors, other university leaders about what we're doing. So I'm not ruling out that there might be other changes that might come, but I wanted to make sure we immediately address the issues that were creating a perceived conflict of interest and ambiguity about how decisions were made.
We're all aware that perception means everything, and once it's out there, it's out there. Do you think that this is too much to overcome?
Not at all, no. I'm concerned about any perceptions. I mean, officiating is a highly charged topic at all times. There's mistakes that are going to be made. There's a lot of close calls, always, and it's one of the topics that there's always discussion and debate and controversy around. So it's a highly charged topic at the best of times. You always strive for perfection. That's what we drive our folks through their training, through their accountability and grading programs, through the hiring of people, through our management of replay. But you're never going to achieve perfection, but you're always striving for it. So I think there's always controversy around it, and that's the environment that we operate in. You have to accept. But we've made tremendous investments in this area. I think the people that are in leadership positions are first class. I mean, for example, one investment we made a couple of years ago is we were one of the first conferences to hire a full-time, year-round head of officiating, David Coleman. He was the number 2 at the NFL. You could not hire for a head of officiating program someone more qualified than David. And he spends all year evaluating talent, recruiting, training, working on accountability. So that's an example of the seriousness with which we take it. We're always working to But, there's controversy around it. We just have to assure ourselves and our members that we're doing everything possible to have the best officiating program we can.
Are you or anyone on your staff going to look at other situations, targeting calls, et cetera, to see if there had been any interference like what happened in that Washington State USC game? And if you find out anything, will you make it public?
Yeah, so I've already had a chance to spend time talking to Bill Richardson, our head of replay, and I will talk to others. I don't believe, so far what I've been told is there has not been one other instance where anyone's had any concern. But we're going to do a more extensive review and dig deeper into it.
Are you committed to keeping your 9-game league schedule when these other conferences still stay with the 8 games, and it's maybe a disadvantage to your league sometimes?
Yeah, well, first of all, it's something we review every few years with our coaches and our athletics directors and others. Other conferences have adopted a 9-game schedule. I mean, others are moving in our direction,
Right.
as opposed to the other way. So I don't see much chance we're going to move to an 8-game schedule for a few reasons. Our schools like the 9-game conference schedule because we played 9 games as the Pac-10. And when we moved to the Pac-12, we had long debate about whether you stay with 9 games knowing you won't play everyone every year or go to 8 games. And everyone felt our schools want to play each other as much as reasonably possible. They like being in each other's markets. They like the traditional rivalries. They like where their alumni bases are. Our fans want high-quality competition against name-brand schools. Our student athletes come to our schools to play big-time competition. Our coaches are not looking to dumb down our schedules. And that's evidenced by the fact that on top of the 9-game conference schedule, you see some tough non-conference game schedule. USC and Stanford every single year play Notre Dame. We've had schools this year play Texas and play Oklahoma State and Michigan State. It's a philosophy our schools have. They want to play tough competition. We also happen to think that with the college football playoff, every year is a little bit different. But more often than not, we think the tougher schedule will help our teams have a better chance, assuming they're undefeated, 1 loss, which is what you have to be to make a 14 playoff.
Once that Vegas stadium gets open, you think you'd have discussions about possibly moving the title game down there?
Certainly we'll have discussions. But let me start. We've got a great partnership with Levi's Stadium, with the San Francisco 49ers. We are there through 2019. We have an option for 2020. So it's a little ways off until we really figure it out. But, I feel very fortunate here on the West Coast. We've got a new, I don't know what the latest number is, whether there's $3 billion or $4 billion stadium that's going to be built in Los Angeles for the Rams and the Chargers. And I don't know what the price tag is on the Oakland Raiders moving to Las Vegas, but I've had a chance to visit the display center there and look at those, but it's going to be fabulous. Yeah. And we know our fans enjoy going to Las Vegas. So we will find ways to play big-time college football there. We'll talk to them about bowls. We'll talk to them about special games, maybe the Pac-12 football championship at some stage. But we'll be playing Pac-12 football in that stadium.
But you're firm on keeping basketball there, though, right?
Yes, we recently extended our agreement for another year, I think it was. So, in fact, we're bringing our women's basketball tournament to Las Vegas this year for the first time. So we've had a great experience. Our fans love being there, and so far, so good.
You talk about that replay process being collaborative, but according to that Yahoo report, Mr. Dixon was able to override several officials. Do you have any explanation for that?
Well, I'm glad. Yes, I have seen reporting that described it as Mr. Dixon overriding. And again, I've had a chance since that report came out, which was only 2 nights ago, to interview people and talk to them. Mr. Dixon did not think he was overriding or ordering a decision. He was on the phone with a video replay technician. He was not on the phone with the replay official at the USC Stadium. He was not on the phone with Bill Richardson, the replay supervisor. Mr. Dixon did not think he was ordering a change of a call like he does when he's sometimes in the command center for replay. He's talking about precedent with other calls that were similar to ensure consistency. He's suggesting other angles. He's offering his point of view. But his view is that the replay supervisor, in collaboration with the replay official at the stadium, make the decision. But it was clearly interpreted differently from the replay officials. And from my perspective, if it was interpreted that way, that's a problem, and that's what we're addressing.
What was your interpretation of that play specifically?
I don't comment on whether a call was right or whether it was wrong. That review is done, and we do have that communication with the schools that are involved. So if Washington State was concerned about that call, if USC was concerned about that call, they would have been in touch with our officials. We're very transparent with our schools. We're very responsive, accountable, and there would have been conversations directly about whether we thought it was right, whether it was wrong. But that happens between us and our schools.